Hey, welcome to episode 9 of the Handsy Comprehensive Exam Podcast. I am your host, Lindsay Oden. Today on the podcast, we have the return of Shannon Nutt and a spirited conversation about Victoria's Secret's marketing ethics. Joining me on the pod is my loyal wife and raconteur, Bonnie. I think we had a great talk because Bonnie works at Victoria's Secret and Shannon used to manage a Victoria's Secret store in Arizona, and they're also both staunch feminists who defended the company against my continuous attacks. I think what you'll see is that there is a substantial divide between where I stand in terms of a feminist Marxist critique of the commodification of bodies and the anti-unionism of Victoria's Secret, while Bonnie and Shannon defended the atmosphere fostered by the stores themselves. Anyway, it was a great talk, and I won't bore you anymore. Let's get straight to it. Today's show is brought to you by underwear. Yes, underwear, the rarely seen garments that guard your bits from the rapacious inside of your pants. Choose underwear. Please. Well, let's get started. This is episode 9 of the Handsy Comprehensive Exam Podcast. I'm here with Bonnie in the co-hosting chair again. Say hello.
Hey, everybody. It's good to be back.
And we're here also with my friend Shannon.
Hello.
And Big Cat is also in the room, and I'm sure she'll probably say something as we go on here. So
She's pretty chatty.
This episode is going to be a little different than what we usually do, but I guess we'll just jump right in. Bonnie, you saw something on the internet, and if you would be so kind as to introduce it and then tell us your thoughts real quick.
Okay, so it was like last week, and I was scrolling through my Facebook feed, and something cropped up that I thought was really interesting, and it's called the I'm No Angel campaign, and it's by Lane Bryant, and it's their latest sort of marketing campaign, and it's a direct jab against Victoria's Secret because, as most people know, Victoria's Secret, they have their fashion show every year that's really famous, and all the models that walk in the fashion show are called the Victoria's Secret Angels. So I thought it was really interesting because Lane Bryant, for those of you who are not familiar, it's sort of a competing retail chain, but it's sort of tailored more toward plus-size women. And I think it's a little bit interesting how they're sort of taking these jabs at Victoria's Secret that I feel is a little bit unfounded. So I'm just going to read you guys my post. This is what I said. This popped up on my newsfeed today, and in the interest of presenting both sides of every perspective, I just wanted to share my thoughts. Let me start out by saying, fat shaming is wrong, skinny shaming is wrong, and I'm really glad for the recent body acceptance movement in the media and its implications for a future that is much more open-minded, where everyone can be comfortable with who they are and how they look. I hope that we can keep moving toward a reality where women are valued for their minds, their work ethics, their sense of humor, their empathy, their strength, etc., as opposed to whether or not they have a good body. I offer this for your consideration. I think it is okay for Victoria's Secret models to be thin, and this is why. I, and probably almost all of you, don't see a 10-foot-tall poster of Candace Swanpool covered in glitter and believe for a minute that I should look like that. I see that it's a fantasy, a marketing technique to create appeal for the product, not a simulation of reality. It's like buying a box of Honey Bunches of Oats and then being dismayed and insecure when I open the box and the fresh strawberries, the Elmer's glue they use to simulate the milk, and the checkerboard napkin are missing, even though they are in the photo. My point is that I think we should all have realistic expectations. Like how I once heard it summed up. Don't be sad you don't look like the girl in the magazine. The girl in the magazine doesn't even look like the girl in the magazine. This is definitely not to say that I'm against campaigns that embrace plus sizes. It does make me happy, but I do feel that Victoria's Secret has been unfairly demonized along the way. After almost 2 years working for this company, I feel that there's no retail brand out there that takes better care of their employees, compensates more fairly for the work they do, or puts as much time and payroll into training every associate on how to make our female customers feel confident, comfortable, and encouraged. I have never once heard any of my coworkers make a woman feel fat or unwelcome, because that's not what we are out to do. I worry that the I'm No Angel campaign is a dividing factor that may drive a deeper wedge between the quote-unquote skinnies and fats, when in fact we all need to pull together because we still have big obstacles to tackle as a gender. Equal representation in the workforce, people. Can I hear an I'm No Trophy Wife instead? Your thoughts and discussions are welcome. And so that was my original post.
And I got shit to say.
Okay. So, Lindsay, tell me a little bit about what your reaction is.
No,
also,
actually, let's get Shannon first.
Okay.
Yeah. So Shannon, you used to work at Victoria's Secret, right? Could you give us a little bit background?
Yeah, I worked there for 5 years. I started about 6 months after I turned 18, and I basically worked my way up from a seasonal employee to a store manager position. And I had a very positive experience. I feel like they are very female empowerment and female centric in the positions that they allow for women to grow into and the training that they take into consideration. I also think that there are 1,000 examples of Victoria's Secret employees every single day helping someone feel comfortable in their skin for the one outrage on social media that we see. And I've talked to you about this before, Lindsay, that there was a couple years ago, I think there was like an outrage because one mother was told she wasn't allowed to breastfeed in a fitting room. And I've never had that happen to me, and I work or had that happen with my employees in a Victoria's Secret. I managed a very high volume store in Tempe, and we also had trans people that came in and felt accepted. They made our store their store where they'd come in and shop. So I think that it's you should take everything with a company with a grain of salt, because for every outrage against Victoria's Secret, we can tell you how they're helping young women get a career out of high school that don't necessarily want to go to college, and they have the opportunity to work their way up through the company and make a living wage, not only for themselves, but the living wage that they make can support a family. So I think that it's important to understand the backdrop of the company. And I'm sure that you'll ask me questions about this later. I think it's also important to understand the history behind the company and how it started and the juxtaposition of the company between them and other lingerie companies. So,
And just sort of like tagging on to that as well, I've got to jump on and say, like, I absolutely agree. I feel like Victoria's Secret has almost been it sort of portrayed in some of these media scandals as being like anti-woman, or even what I see that's a lot more common is that a lot of people get the misconception that Victoria's Secret is like only tailored towards skinny people. And that's actually not true at all. Victoria's Secret carries bras up to a 38 triple D, and they also sell bra extenders, which with the extenders, a bra can, like any of our bras can go up to a 42 triple D. You probably would not find that wide of a selection as far as going up into the plus sizes pretty much anywhere that you shop for bras. You wouldn't find that at Walmart. You wouldn't find that at Ross. You wouldn't find that at Target. If anybody needs a bra bigger than a 42 triple D, that is so unusual that they well, not unusual. We can edit this later and I'll go back and find a more tactful term.
Nope, that's staying in.
No, but if somebody needs a bra bigger than a 42 triple D, a lot of the time they would have had to get that bra custom ordered anyway, because that's really not a common size. So I think it's sad that Victoria's Secret is sort of portrayed as only wanting the business, so to speak, of skinny women, because that's really not true at all.
Okay.
Do you want some like historical context?
I would love.
Yeah? Okay.
Give us some context.
So Victoria's Secret started in 1978 in San Francisco, and it was started because one man went into a department store and he felt uncomfortable buying lingerie for his wife. So he had this idea about borrowing money from his parents and starting a lingerie company. And this lingerie company was to cater towards men shopping for their partners, so it had no cadence to the women shopping for lingerie. It was all about supporting the men shopping for women. And the original stores were set in like a fictitious London Victorian brothel. So the stores were like darker. They had like velvet red couches. The fitting rooms were at the front of the store, basically on display for people passing by. So it was very much catered to the male audience and not worried about the female body that was going to be wearing the lingerie. So he had 3 stores and a catalog when he sold the company, and I think it was 1983 when Limited Brands bought it. When Limited Brands bought it, the first thing they did was move the fitting room to the back. They started training their employees. They took the male bodies out of the catalog that were in it, so there was no longer the idea that men can see themselves in the catalog or see themselves with the model. Instead, it was focused on the women and the shape of the lingerie and the bras. They also didn't have these ridiculous lace-only options or like see-through, or basically the Victoria's Secret's, the way that it started, it was more of a competition for Fredericks of Hollywood. If you look at the Fredericks of Hollywood campaigns in the 1970s, which were hypersexualized and was like a soft sex store, basically. And Limited Brands changed that. It became like a women-centric company. And yeah,
So Shannon, so as you mentioned before, so you worked at Victoria's Secret for 5 years, and you went up to a store manager, and you worked your way all the way up to being a store manager. Tell me a little bit about what kind of sensitivity training you've received as part of that position. I know everybody that works at my store, it was probably the same at yours. Everybody has to be certified in how to fit people for bras and how to... I know that we definitely got a lot of training as far as how to talk to women about their bodies, and a lot of our training sort of centered around the fact that we need to make no assumptions about like people's confidence, and we needed to basically open ourselves up and really listen to what the customer needs and be able to tailor sort of our behaviors in order to sort of better fit what every individual customer needs. So tell me a little bit about what kind of sensitivity training you received.
Well, we received, so when you're starting out as an employee for Victoria's Secret, at least when I was, so this was 12 years ago now when I started with the company. So there was 3 positions that you could do as an associate. You could do stock, you could do regular associate, or you could do cashier. And so for all positions, you had to be certified in bra training. And bra training was like a 3-day long event, like training day. So you had to watch the videos, you had to do the booklets, and then you had to shadow an associate to make sure that you were watching and they can watch you do it so that they could teach you in the moment about good practices. So you had one-on-one training, and then if you wanted to move up to be a bra specialist, you had to go through another 2-week certification that was followed with a manager. So you had all of these, you had to learn every single type of bra. You had to physically try these on so that you could relate to the women and tell them how it's going to fit on an actual body and not a mannequin. And then you had to, you had to know what sizes all of the bras came in as well. So you weren't suggesting a bra that a woman could not get either because she was smaller than the average that Victoria's Secret carried or larger than the average size that Victoria's Secret carried. I would also say that for holiday training, it goes more extensively because you get a higher volume of traffic, so you get more people certified in the bra specialist area. And I was really passionate about the education. Before I decided I want to go back to school, I thought I was going to stay with the company. And so I helped write one of the bra training manuals that the company used. And so I know how much training each of these girls are getting. And it's important to say that while Victoria's Secret hires men, they do not hire men that are allowed to fit or go in the fitting rooms.
Exactly.
For women.
All of the men that work out on the floor, they either have to be cashiers or they work in beauty, which is basically the perfume sort of section of the store. We don't have any men that work in bras.
Right. And I think that one of the other big shock values that I saw when I was actually on the floor is that women assumed to get fit that they had to be completely naked, and so they were really uncomfortable with the idea of getting fit because other stores such as like Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's require the women to get completely naked from the top up, which is a little off-putting when you go into a retail store to get naked in front of a stranger. And so I think that we trained our associates to make them feel comfortable and to tell them that they didn't have to be any more naked than they wanted to be.
With that being said, I've definitely seen a lot of old lady boobs in my time working at Victoria's Secret.
I have seen a lot of boobs, but I fit women for bras. We don't carry specific nursing bras, but we fit women that just love the bras, that just decided to wear them while breastfeeding. I've fit women for bras post-op after they've either gotten a breast augmentation or reduction.
And that was a big part. Sorry to cut you off,
no,
but that
ahead.
was a big part of what they taught us too, is that people come in with all kinds of different needs. People come in from all walks of life, people that just had babies, I've had customers who have come into my store and said, hey, I just lost 100 pounds and I feel really good about myself and I need an all new bra wardrobe.
Yeah.
And I feel like so much of our training was sort of tailored toward sort of empowering these women and celebrating their victories with them. And a lot of the time what we see is even associates in our store will develop long-standing relationships with regular customers that will come in and they'll measure, their progress together. And I've seen a bra specialist, all the way with someone on their weight loss journey from a 38D to a 34B. And that's just so exciting to be able to sort of watch these relationships evolve.
Now, this is all very interesting. I will give you that.
Oh, yeah,
And
Lindsay. Hey, you're still here.
Yeah.
I'm very much appreciative that you have both spoken to the kind of in the store company ethos.
Exactly.
Right? That's fine. But I think we should bring this back to the advertising campaigns. And like the reason why we're here talking about this is because I disagree with your characterization of the advertising campaigns. So if I may interject, let's get back to the advertising real quick. And I want to talk about this. So you said that I hope that we can keep moving toward a reality where women are valued for their minds, their work ethics, etc. I agree with that. And that's exactly why I think Victoria's Secret ad campaigns, and Lane Bryant's for that matter, are deeply, deeply flawed. And let me give you a couple of reasons why. So you said, I don't see a 10-foot tall poster of Candace Swanpole covered in glitter and believe for a minute that I should look like that. I see it as a fantasy and marketing technique to create appeal for the product, not a simulation of reality. And I want to take this apart a little bit just to say that that's exactly what they want you to do. A fantasy is aspirational, that there is something that as much as you guys can describe this environment within the store as being very positive, the way that they get people through the door in the first place is to commodify female bodies and to sexualize them, that you can say like, well, we took the men out of the catalogs.
Now, I'm going to have to disagree with you there. Victoria's Secret puts a lot of time and effort into making sure that none of their marketing campaigns are over-sexualized.
Okay, but that's completely ridiculous then.
As someone who works in the marketing side, I can tell you that the aim of Victoria's Secret is to create lingerie that is beautiful and it's sexy without being trashy.
Okay,
So please
tell me
I
real
have a
quick
question,
though.
though.
Real
Okay.
quick, Bonnie, you worked with a lot of the beauty items. Can you tell me? And I think we went through this exercise in the car. How many different products have the word "sexy" in the title? Real quick. How many?
Oh boy, almost all of them.
Almost all of them.
I have a question though. So you think that both Lane Bryant and Victoria's Secret have a commodification of bodies? So what would your ideal be for a lingerie store ad campaign?
I don't have an alternative because I think there is something to say that lingerie is, I don't want to say inherently sexy. I think it's socially constructed as sexy, that leaves something to the imagination, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? These are clothes that are meant to be sexy. And I think the fact that almost all of Victoria's Secret's ads campaigns have the word sexy in them is indicative of the way that they have sexualized the products themselves and therefore sexualize the women who take part in the advertising campaigns. So I think it's, I don't think that your argument that it's not a simulation of reality is even true. It's a very particular simulation of a kind of aspirational reality that they are marketing to women in order to sell clothes. We cannot even for an instant say that Victoria's Secret's first and foremost goal is to make women feel good about themselves. I don't think that's true at all. It's about selling clothes. It's about making money. They are a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah, but I would say that based on the marketing for limited brands and the success and failures of their other brands that they have had, Victoria's Secret has been like their most successful, and it's because of the training and that the employees get to make women feel comfortable, because they also owned Abercrombie and Fitch for a while. They owned the limited brands. They owned Express. And if you go in there, because I've talked with other employees and I've been in those stores, they don't have the same respect, I don't think, for the consumers that's coming in.
And that's fine.
You just
I
get
totally
the sense that walking into any of those stores that you're not necessarily speaking with a professional. And I think that when you go into Victoria's Secret, that's sort of the
I've completely
expectation.
conceded all of that. I'm really happy to hear that there is an in-store ethos that presents a very particular version of, esteem or building up. But I think that even if we concede that the marketing presented by Victoria's Secret is different from its internal structures or beliefs or whatever, its public persona is a very particular form of simulation. And my argument for this is that you have to look at who they have chosen for models. There are no plus-size Victoria's Secret models. There's very few, if ever, African-American women that I've ever seen featured prominently when I walk by the store. I don't see any...
We just had an African-American woman, the second to last floor set that we did.
Okay, so you can list one, though. But here's the other thing.
You could say that they're all also not traditionally white if you would put those in categories.
I think there's a disproportionate, in terms of demographics, that there's a lot of, for example, Brazilian women and Northern European women. That's a very particular set of people that they've chosen.
I would say more Latin America, South America than Northern European. The only Northern European person that I could think of would be Heidi Klum.
Heidi Klum, Candace Swanpole, right? Isn't she?
She's actually from South Africa, but she's blonde-haired,
Well,
blue-eyed.
she's clearly not African, right? She's ethnically European.
Right.
But the point that I'm trying to make, the point that I'm
Tyra
trying to
Banks.
make is that it's not just about race also, but it's also how many post-op trans people are models for Victoria's Secret, for example. I'm just saying that there are no plus-size models, and they're presenting a very particular view. They are trying to sell bras. This is all aspirational.
Okay, but why do they have to have
I'm not saying that they have
a plus-size model?
I'm just saying that the interpretation between Lane Bryant and Victoria's Secret is the conflict between them is so facile. They're both doing exactly the same thing.
Yes.
They are doing the exact same thing. Lane Bryant saying, this is an advertising campaign to say that I'm no angel. Exactly. Come to Lane Bryant and buy our clothes instead of Victoria's Secret.
Exactly. And on that
it's
point,
competition.
I agree with you completely, because and that was actually something else I was going to bring up, is that in the hashtag I'm No Angel campaign, I'll tell you guys a little bit more about it. I don't think we've really explained it in depth up to this point. But basically, it's an ad campaign featuring a photograph of like 8 or 10 women, all of whom are plus size, all standing and smiling. And the point is that you don't have, or the point that they seem to be making is that you don't have to look like a Victoria's Secret angel in order to be sexy. And I agree with that.
No, I agree with that too.
I agree with that, but I don't
everyone
think
deserves
that's
to
what
feel
they're doing.
sexy regardless of size. I disagree with the way they're going about it in portraying Victoria's Secret as being anti-woman or even anti-diverse body types, when in the I'm No Angel campaign, not only are all of the women plus size, there are no thin women in the photograph.
Yeah, but you
not
have to
only
remember
are
that
all the women
every
plus
single
sized,
one of them is a model.
Every single one of those women would fit into a Victoria's Secret bra. Looking at the photograph, every single body pictured would fit into a bra that we sell at Victoria's Secret. So Lane Bryant is sort of making this jab at Victoria's Secret, but they don't really understand. I think
I think they perfectly understand.
Yeah,
what
I
they're
think
doing.
and they're doing the same exact thing, only they're only using plus size models instead of only using thin models. But they're trying to sort of advocate for diversity when they're not showing any themselves.
Well, that's the point, is that both sides of this conflict, whatever you want to call it, they're in competition, and that's, I think, the lifeblood of capitalism, which is that these two various entities are doing the same thing, exploiting the same strategy.
Well, I think that also Victoria's Secret has become like this straw man for people to like set it up, and they're like, look how awful this company is in so many ways, and then we're going to knock it down, and we're going to show you how our company is better. And I think that it,
Of course.
or even with like, I am a full-blooded feminist, and we can go into definitions, but even like
course.
feminist camps that are like, look how awful Victoria's Secret is, and I'm like, you may not agree with the nationwide campaign, but if you go into a store and you talk to the people that they foster, yeah, but I agree with Bonnie. I don't understand. I still, as a woman that's not the size that the models are, I don't understand why wanting to feel sexy even though you're not that size. And when you look at those images, they're all done by high fashion photographers. They're
Sure.
not done by like catalog images. They're all like high fashion photography. So if you looked at that image and you were like, oh, I want it, if that was in an art gallery instead of a Victoria's Secret catalog, I don't know if we'd be having the same conversation.
Well,
but
it's because it's paratextually different.
But is it? Because it's still art.
It's
I
artwork
think that's
to convey a message.
That's certainly debatable. I think you're probably right, but I'm saying that there is the paratextual elements that that structure how audiences receive the messages are different in those cases. When you go into an art gallery, you expect to see art. When you go into a mall, you expect to see advertisements. I think that's a fair assertion to make.
Yeah.
And then advertisements are built primarily to sell products.
But okay, yes, they are selling a specific bra in that campaign, or bra and panty set, or lingerie set, or whatever. But just because they're sexualized, or they're sexy, or they're like, that's the version that they're trying to sell, I don't think that that's a bad thing giving the company.
No,
if you were going to do like a Victoria's Secret style for like, Target, where like it's a family centric store,
Yeah.
that might be an issue. But I mean, you have to understand that it's a lingerie store. So what are you expecting to see, like fully covered robes and like slippers?
No, I'm shaking my head vigorously. Like, no, I do not expect that.
And
I'm
Lindsay,
I'm
think-
conceding that I don't have an I really don't. There's no alternative that I have envisioned. But I think it's also you said in your post that that Victoria's Secret is unfairly demonized. And we can speak to that as if they're demonized by other companies, it's because the other companies want to eat into Victoria's Secret market share.
Yeah,
That's the first part.
and
The second part is I don't think we can demonize a multi-billion-dollar corporation that makes money exploiting, sexualizing, commodifying women.
Oh, I think we absolutely can. I don't necessarily know that it's going to hurt them enough to bring their business to the ground, but I think it's demonizing. And I understand the point that you're trying to make about the quote unquote sexualized images of women. I offer this for your consideration. I think I understand what you're trying to say, and it's that a consumer has a certain expectation of advertisement, and there's an element of attainability and relatability there
Absolutely, yes.
that a consumer has with the marketing images that they see. But picture this. So say you walk into a surf shop, and up on the wall, there's a poster of somebody surfing on a 15-foot wave, okay? Just because you don't have that skill level doesn't mean that those products that they sell in that shop are not tailored to you. It's not there to try and make you feel inferior. These women who work for Victoria's Secret as supermodels, they're in the gym 6 to 8 hours a day. They follow like certain meal plans, making sure I read somewhere that they like twice the amount of protein in a day that like you or I would, for instance. They are very fit and very healthy. They don't starve themselves. It's just a very almost sort of hyper real version of fitness.
Thank you. That's the perfect word to use here, because there is a gap between reality and expectation.
Just in the way between the average consumer looking at a photograph of someone surfing on a 10-foot wave, they might never reach that level of skill, but that's okay.
And that doesn't stop it from being aspirational and at its core attempting to sell the products.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
but
why-
I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's a problem there.
So then why does Victoria's Secret demand that all of its models follow such a strict regimen?
They don't set it up for them, the models.
Well-
The models set it up for themselves. And I would say that Victoria's Secret is a launching pad for women to have like ridiculous careers. So these supermodels that come out, look at Heidi Klum now.
Giselle Bundchen.
Tyler Banks.
multi-millionaires.
Giselle Bundchen makes more than Tom Brady. So
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
But
what I'm saying.
That's
but
what
Tom,
a store associate will never make that.
no, but a store associate can feed their family of 4.
I think if you looked at our W-2 from last year, a store associate would a single mother store associate would not be able
Okay,
to feed their
I'm
family.
in a-
Let
I'm
me
in a
add, Lindsay,
full-time-
You're basing that on the fact that I work part-time. Also, within the last 8 months, not only has Victoria's Secret given me a 50% raise just for having the exact same job, just because they want to pay their workers more, they also installed an incentive program. One of my coworkers took home a check last December for over $10,000 as part of her commission. That was for one paycheck for 2 weeks.
And why did they install that incentive program, Bonnie?
They did it to help them make money. I don't think
No.
that.
What's the real reason? To fight off unionization.
See, they didn't have an incentivized program when I was there. It was all either hourly or salary based.
And that's the thing, is that they compromise in order so the associates don't form a union and demand real change, demand a real wage for every person, even the people who come in at entry level and don't
the entry level workers at my store are making, what's minimum wage in Nevada?
like $7.50.
$7.50.
I thought it was $7.25 nationwide.
It's like
$7.25?
it's the federal minimum in
Yeah,
Nevada.
$7.25.
Entry level positions. The cleaning lady at our job or at our store who does not speak a word of English, the cleaning lady makes $14 an hour,
And a living
she's
wage is 15.
and she's one of the lower paid people. But she only
And you
works.
can only
She only
imagine-
works part time.
Well, you can imagine what would happen if the union stepped in, considering the massive profits that Victoria's Secret is raking
The
in.
vast majority of
And-
union jobs don't even pay that well. Most of my jobs that
that's
work
not true.
for
That's
grocery
not true.
stores.
You're just that's not accurate. The
Okay.
other thing is
Okay, so
what,
edit that
what do
out.
you
But
get
I
for,
can tell you, I have
No, Bonnie, I wanna
numerous
ask you.
friends who worked for grocery stores that were unionized, and they were only making like $10 an hour. So
Okay,
the fact,
that's true.
the mere
I
fact that a
only made
company
$10
has
an hour.
unionized
That's
does
true.
not mean that every worker makes $15
right,
an hour.
But what's your healthcare plan through the company?
I have not opted into one. There are some options available for me.
And you
I
gotta
have
pay
chosen
for
a
it.
different plan for myself.
Yeah, you got to pay for it.
You have to pay for it at our school, though,
No,
too.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, don't pretend that Victoria's Secret is looking out for its workers. It's not. It's disassembling unionization efforts. It's disassembling work done by people who want real health benefits. That's why those incentive programs exist. It's not for the benefit of the employees. And you can't pretend like it is.
Whether the intention is driven by the desire to maximize profit doesn't change the fact that since this incentive program was installed and since they did the statewide raises on all of our salaries, it has drastically changed the lives of every woman that works for the company. I know people that were living in horrible situations before this happened that have now been able to become independent and, become financially stable when they never were able to before. I think that that's way, way, way far and above the call of duty
Sure,
for a
it might
mall
be.
for a mall brand retail store.
It
I
might
don't
be.
think that there is anything
Do you know?
similar that would treat their workers as well as Victoria's Secret.
I have a question that I honestly just don't know the answer to. Do you know if any or how many retail stores are unionized, or if they allow? Because
Very few.
Yeah, okay.
Very few. Retail is one of the weakest union sectors. I
don't think that it's ever been strong, because there
No, it
was
can't
like
be.
the people that make the clothing almost have always been unionized. But
Right.
I was just wondering.
I think it's possible to say that retail is even lower skill than factory work, and factory workers are the strongest, even though it's not.
Ooh, I don't think they're the strongest union anymore.
No, well, that's what I'm saying is
Oh,
that
yeah.
it used to be. It certainly used
Yeah.
to be. Factory floors used to be, where the unions would form,
Right.
or where the unions had their strongest support. And I think retail, because it is even lower skill, it makes the workers even more replaceable, which makes forming a union even hard because everybody is a scab.
Well, I disagree. I don't think retail is low skill at all, especially at Victoria's Secret. The amount of
Okay,
payroll
but
and training
but
that they
overall,
put into all of us.
overall, considering the
Overall,
wages
yeah.
of retail,
Okay.
considering the wages of retail and the turnover in retail, the fact it makes it so hard to form unions, and then you have companies that are actively disassembling them, like Walmart and
Right.
Target and Victoria's Secret, as an example.
Well, I would be interested to see if they were actually actively fighting against unionization. Walmart obviously is. That's not a question. But I would be interested to see limited brands ideals on unions. That would be something that I would be interested in investigating.
Sure.
I would just be interested to know whether if limited brands were to become unionized, I'm very skeptical that anything would really change. I think that we're already being treated so well as compared to so many other workers. At
Your wages would go up. You would get better health benefits.
You would definitely get better health benefits. I would concede that one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they would get better wages right off. I don't think that would be a drastic change.
No, they would build it in, so the longer you're there, you get better wages.
Right.
That's what happened when I was
already have that
but
system
health
in place. I just
insurance,
got a raise.
Well, when
health insurance would be incentivized for everyone.
Right.
I think would be the big change that
And when
everyone would pay into that or have that.
When I was in the commercial food workers union at Safeway, it was the same thing. That the longer you work there, the more was available to you, and the more your wages went up. And then you move up also in the union structure where you can become a journeyman. And things like that. You get these different positions which come with a bunch of benefits. So if you're there for 5 years, you pretty much do have health care. You have, you're guaranteed protected from being fired and things like that. That's what's important.
Yeah, I would say that when I left, I was making a lot of money for a 22-year-old college graduate that had no idea. No, 24-year-old college graduate that I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life when I left, and I had really good health insurance, better than we have at the school, unfortunately, vision, dental, all of that stuff. So the longer that I stayed there, I got a raise every 6 months. It never failed. So.
And you also moved up into management.
Yeah.
And they want to pay the management well.
But they also want to hire from within. That's like a big thing, is they want to train their employees to work up through the system, which I think is also different than other retailers.
That's a huge thing that I've noticed.
It saves them money.
It saves them money, but it also fosters
it fosters a lot of things. It fosters
exactly.
loyalty. And those are.
But it's very beneficial for the workers because it's good for me to know as an individual that I'm always being watched and assessed for my management potential. I feel like no good work really goes unnoticed in the long run.
They want to promote continuity and any number of factors that will, like I said, help build loyalty and help you. This is a gospel of efficiency.
Yeah, and it saves them money because they don't have to retrain someone else because they have already invested in your training.
Right.
But it's sort of a win-win because I feel like it's really beneficial for the employees that are already working there.
Yeah, but you don't get.
And it's also good to know. It just feels like they're very invested in upward mobility, and it feels good to know that what you get out of your job, you can get out as much as you put into it.
Yeah, but you don't get to compete for that. You don't get to negotiate your raises, do you?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do.
Well, if they're hiring from within and they can undercut you with somebody else who who has the equivalent amount of training as you do.
I negotiated my when I went from part-time to full-time, they offered me a lower wage than I wanted, and so I asked for more, and they gave it to me.
Yeah, but imagine how much bargaining power you'd have if you were in a union.
I don't necessarily think that you would have more.
I think
you absolutely do have more. That's the whole reason you got a union.
I think
to collectively bargain.
I think that you would have more, and I think that my case might be an exception.
No, I think both of your
instances.
cases are exceptions. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know the statistics, but Bonnie, you got promoted. Shannon, obviously, you became a store manager. So you had upward mobility. So, of course, you see the company promoting upward mobility, but I can't help but think about all of the people who spend a year or two there and never get promoted and then move on to a different company where they think there might be better opportunities.
I hired probably like 50 to, if you're counting seasonal employment, 50 to 100 girls over the course of my 5 years, and I can think of like 4 or 5 standouts that like most of the people stayed with the company until they at least graduated college, because of the store that I managed. It was right next to ASU.
Sure.
So it was all college girls that I was hiring. And so I understood that once they graduated, they would most likely leave the company. That was an understanding. But at the same time, there's like 4 or 5 that chose to stay in retail, and they got headhunted out by other companies because of how well they were trained. So, I mean, while they might not have stayed with the company, I don't think that was Victoria's Secret's fault. I think that they got headhunted out because they saw how well they were doing at Victoria's Secret and those other companies wanted. So now, like, one of my good friends, Emily, is the hiring person at Michael Kors for the Times Square store for Michael Kors. So, like, that's how well her Victoria's Secret training did for her.
But I think this I think it reinforces my idea that they're creating a managerial class that, you know, is supposedly a step above the average worker, and you're there to manage the average worker on behalf of the company. This is, like I said, this is primarily a money-making endeavor.
Yeah, but I don't think that if you can't just have workers like doing whatever they wanted, especially with the college age kids that I was.
That's probably true. And I don't think you could ever walk into a union shop and not have a very clear hierarchy. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it's obvious to me, at least, that every step along the way, it's for them to maximize their profits in some form. And if they're providing the best training, it's only because they think that the best trained individuals will be more efficient at making the money.
And I agree. I just don't see how that's mutually exclusive with what's best for the employees.
I would say that that's exactly that statement that you just made, Lindsay, is why people like Steve Wynn choose to hire union employees. And so it's funny that you like mentioned that you think that Victoria's Secret's not fostering union aspects, I guess, but I don't know the correct word of what I want to say right there. But Steve Wynn has a reputation. He says that he wants the union employees because they're the best trained and they're going to give the customers the best experience. And that's what Victoria's Secret fosters, at least in their internal level. Well, I agree that there could be improvements made with like unionizing in healthcare for the part-time workers. That's other companies hire Victoria's Secret people because they're the best trained. So
I think it just all wraps up with capitalism and how you're all being exploited, and that every time they give you a compromise of some sort, it's to undermine your proletarian revolutionary potential. But that's just
all I can say is I'm just happy that I'm being exploited for at least $5 or $6 more an hour than I would be making absolutely anywhere else doing the same exact thing.
Don't forget, you still produce surplus value, and the fact that you're not paid the equivalent of what you're actually worth to the company is a form of exploitation.
I'm paid a lot more than if I didn't work for the company.
That reminds me of a great Onion headline. I think I saw it yesterday. It was recently unemployed woman enjoys pay equity first time in life. It all makes sense.
Too soon. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, this was an excellent chat. If you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, but I think this is a good place to put a bow on it.
Yeah.
All right, let's do our favorite part. Let's move on to the lightning round.
All right.
Actually, let's take a quick commercial break. Hey, it's Lindsay here at Intermission. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at ScreaminVegan. Follow Hannah on Instagram and Twitter at hands_labyrinth. You can follow Shannon on Twitter at NuttyPug and her pug Lily at ThePugLily. Don't forget to like the Handsy Comprehensive Exam Facebook page at facebook.com/Handsy Comprehensive Exam. Email the show, handsycompexam@gmail.com. If you'd like to be on the pod or be a guest author, you can pitch us ideas at that email address. Be on the lookout for new music tracks from my music project, Disciplinary Boundaries. Visit soundcloud.com/disciplinary-boundaries. My work will start going up on the Grad Hacker blog this week. Visit insidehighered.com/blogs/gradhacker to see my posts. And of course, follow the Handsy Comprehensive Exam blog at handsycomprehensiveexam.com. Let's get back to the show. All right, and we're back.
All right.
Let's do the lightning round. If you, Shannon, would kindly give us 5 numbers between 1 and 30.
Okay, 7, 12, 17, 20, and then 26.
Question number 7.
Hopefully I haven't answered these already.
Who's your favorite character from the Tolkien universe?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't read the books. So.
But you've seen the movies.
Okay, I'm not Merry and Pippin.
Oh,
I was
okay.
gonna say I was like the Hobbits that isn't Sam, and then I was like, oh, Merry and Pippin.
The
Hey,
ones.
fun fact, did you know that Tolkien actually considered Sam to be the hero of Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Not Frodo.
Yeah, I
Well,
think.
it's because Frodo's a jackass.
Yeah.
And Sam was the only one strong enough to voluntarily give up the ring.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a really good point. I didn't even consider.
And he was willing to sacrifice himself on multiple fronts.
Yeah, seriously. All right. Question number 12. It's a video game question. Skyrim or Borderlands?
I don't play either
Okay,
one.
hold on. Let's go on to question.
Super Mario Brothers.
Let's do question number 10. If you could go to a show with any bands playing, who would they be?
Well, last night, this is going to be part of my recommendation. Last night we just went and saw Bad Religion,
Oh,
and
classic.
I haven't seen them in 15 years, and I was blown away by how good they still are. So I'm going to plug this as my recommendation right now. Go listen to anything Bad Religion has done in the
Yes.
last 30 years, because holy cow, those guys are so amazing live.
One of those defining punk bands, and it's so good to hear that they're still good live.
Oh my, they were better than I remembered live. So 15 years has not done anything to them, but helped.
All right. Question number 17. You're forced to participate in a gladiatorial Hunger Games scenario. You get to choose one melee or projectile weapon to start the contest. What do you choose?
I
Pug
was-
launcher.
I was actually pretty good with a bow and arrow, so I'll probably do bow and arrow. I'm not
There you-
Katniss good, but let's not get it twisted. But I think I can evolve my skills.
Question number 20. What is the scarier post-apocalyptic scenario? The Walking Dead or Cormac McCarthy's The Road?
World War Z. Can I
Oh,
say
okay.
that? Because those zombies can run and they're scared and
They can
climb
stack.
shit, and
Yep.
that is way more
I'm
terrifying
trying to
than
remember. What was it, 28 Days Later?
that
Oh,
was
the fast one.
Those might have been the scariest
Yeah,
zombies.
yeah.
Yeah.
Walking Dead ones aren't super scary because they can't run and they're relatively dumb.
But it's amazing how many people they still kill.
They
They're
swarm.
so
Well,
slow.
it's swarms.
They
It-
swarm
it's
and they take you by
numbers.
surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good point. All right. Question. Last one. Number 26. Who's your favorite comedian?
Right now, it's probably Amy Schumer.
Oh, yeah. She's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yep.
Did
I
you
just-
watch the MTV Music Awards or whatever they're
No,
called?
I recorded it, but I'm gonna watch it just for her stand-up parts.
I want to
but
watch just her monologue.
Did you see her video, the milk lemonade one?
Yes.
Oh my god, that is just the stuff that she comes up with right now is just so brilliant and relevant to social commentary. And I actually really liked it that Chelsea Handler, who's like one of the godmothers of comedy right now, was like super pro Amy Schumer, and she like tweeted out a picture that was like, look how awesome it is that she's on the cover of a magazine. And so I was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So.
Amy Schumer's great. People think that she's just being gross or, just doing shock comedy. They don't realize how subversive it is,
Yeah.
really. Yeah. All right, that's the last one. Let's go to recommendations. Shannon, you recommended Bad Religion.
Yes.
Bonnie?
I'm going to have to recommend a Netflix documentary that I watched pretty recently. It's called Plastic Paradise, and it's about the Great Pacific, basically like the trash island that's just like floating out there in the ocean. Long story short, plastic does not biodegrade, so like every piece of plastic that has ever been manufactured still exists on the planet somewhere, which is kind of scary to think about. Right now there's like a patch of just like plastic garbage that's twice the size of Texas, floating across the Pacific Ocean. It was really depressing, really kind of eye-opening. From now on, I'm going to be ordering all my Starbucks drinks in paper cups without lids and trying to minimize sort of my usage of, they said like 80% of the plastic garbage problem is from single-use plastics. So I'm kind of like looking for ways in my own life that I can reduce my plastic usage.
That's excellent.
There's also an article that I think you'd be interested in that I can't remember the name of it, but it's a girl living in Brooklyn that decided to do like zero waste. She was going to do it as an experiment for 1 year, and she's actually made it 2 years where she's just had like zero garbage.
I will find a link for that
Yeah.
and put it in the show
Wow.
notes.
I guess you would have to get a wood stove and just burn everything, right?
Well, she brings her own containers, so she shops at local farmers markets and like brings her own mason jars and recyclable totes for like produce, and then she uses like she basically like makes her own like laundry detergent and stuff based on like household products like hydrogen peroxide and other ingredients that
Wow.
yeah. It's extreme, like that you could, if you
man.
could go that far, but I just thought
think
you might be interested in.
I don't think I could ever live a life without Gain fabric softener if I ever reach that point.
Well, that's how we felt about when we went vegan. You know, like, I don't know if I could live in a world without cheese, except that I've been vegan for 5 years and I found it's remarkably easy.
Not necessarily. I think it's a lot easier because there's like a vegan substitute for pretty much everything out there. Like we buy
there's-
cheese, it's just not made out of milk. Like,
There-
we still
there
buy hot dogs and
Are definitely
burgers and chicken
substitutes
strips
for all plastic things and all wasteful things. It's just they're not as easy.
So
and-
inconvenient.
Exactly. My recommendation is the show Louie. It's back on FX right now. It's in its 5th season. You can binge watch them all on Netflix.
They just added the 4th season.
Yeah, they just added the 4th season. We just watched it all the way through. Louis C.K., he just keeps getting better and better. Yeah. The show is incredibly subversive, and it's so funny and so satirical in a way that it's never in your face, the level of satire and social criticism that he's doing. But
that's rare.
It's very rare.
I
so
think
subtle.
Louis sort of assumes a certain level of intelligence among his viewers, and I think that he purposely sort of caters to an audience that's like more likely to pick up on those nuances.
Well, people forget that before he was doing the stand-up that made him super famous, the stand-up about his family and about his personal life and about how ugly he is, all that stuff. Before he was doing that, he was doing absurdist comedy. And people don't remember that. Before he got famous, he was really fucking weird. And there's some elements of that in season 4 of Louie where things that they don't actually happen in the plot, but they are absurd, and he shows them very funny. Like I think it's the first episode of the 4th season with the garbage men. And if you watch it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It doesn't actually happen in the plot, but it's very absurd, and it cuts right at the heart of a lot of social assumptions.
Well, in the fat girl dating episode,
Yep.
that was my favorite.
That episode was just brilliant, and it should have won an Emmy. Is that like the TV?
I think that's the TV one. Yeah.
I have no idea.
And there's a one-shot monologue too in the middle of that episode.
Yeah.
And it's on one shot. There's no editing or cutting in it, and
it's made to feel like you're right there, like you're watching it.
Yeah, like
And I
because they
think
have
that's
it in the
on
park,
purpose.
and it's like you're an audience in the park, like walking by them or something like that. It's very excellent. Well, thank you for coming over, Shannon. And thanks, Bonnie, for co-hosting again.
I'll be here all week.
All right. And thank you, Big Cat, for not making too much noise. That's it for this week of the podcast. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you next week.